Victoria Chen drove the final nail into the oak door and stepped back to admire her work. Behind that door, 72-year-old Dorothy Thompson was screaming, clawing at the wood until her fingernails cracked and bled. Victoria tilted her head, listening to the desperate scratching sounds, and she smiled. Actually, smiled. "Scream all you want, old woman," she whispered through the door. "Your precious son is 800 miles away, counting his money. He doesn't care about you. He never did. You're just a burden he's too guilty to throw away." She pulled out her phone and texted Linda. "It's done. The old black woman is locked up tight. Meet me at the casino in 20. We're celebrating." She grabbed her Gucci purse, checked her lipstick in the hallway mirror, and walked out the front door without looking back. Behind her, Dorothy's screams faded into hopeless sobs. What Victoria didn't know was that hidden inside Dorothy's old red scarf was a cassette recorder, and it had captured everything. Before we continue this story, please subscribe to our channel and follow along until the very end. Comment below and tell us which city you're watching from. We want to see how far Dorothy's story will travel. Now, let's go back to where this nightmare began. The phone rang 12 times before Marcus Thompson slammed it down on the hotel desk. His hand was shaking. Marcus Thompson, the man who had built a real estate empire from nothing, who had stared down hostile investors and walked away with millions, couldn't stop his hand from shaking. He picked up the phone and dialed again. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings, 4. "Come on, Mama," he whispered. "Pick up. Please pick up." 5 rings, 6, 7, nothing. Marcus hurled the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor, the battery popping out and skidding under the bed. 3 days. 3 days since he had heard his mother's voice. Dorothy Thompson called her son every single morning at exactly 7 o'clock. She had done this for 15 years without fail, not when she had pneumonia and could barely breathe, not when she broke her hip and spent 3 weeks in the hospital, not when Atlanta lost power for 2 days during that ice storm. She had borrowed a neighbor's phone and called him anyway, every single morning. 7 o'clock sharp. Until 3 days ago. Marcus paced the hotel room like a caged animal. His reflection caught his eye in the mirror, and he barely recognized himself. Bloodshot eyes. 3 days of stubble. The same suit he had worn to yesterday's meeting, now wrinkled and stained with coffee he didn't remember spilling. He looked like a man falling apart. Because he was. His assistant, Mike, knocked twice and pushed open the door without waiting for an answer. "Sir, the partners are getting impatient. The Hendricks deal is worth $20 million, and they're threatening to walk if you don't show up in the next 15 minutes. Marcus didn't turn around. He was staring at his phone on the floor, willing it to ring. "Something's wrong with my mother." Mike shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, I'm sure she's fine. Your wife is taking care of her. Victoria sends you updates every day. She said your mother has been sleeping a lot because of her new medication." "My mother doesn't take medication that makes her sleep." "Well, maybe it's new. Maybe her doctor changed something." "Sir, please. $20 million. 6 months of work. The partners flew in from Tokyo, specifically for this meeting." Marcus finally turned around, and Mike took an involuntary step backward. He had worked for Marcus Thompson for 8 years. He had seen his boss angry, frustrated, exhausted, disappointed, but he had never seen this expression before. Fear. Raw, primal fear. "Book me a flight to Atlanta. The next one available. I don't care if it costs $50,000. I don't care if you have to buy out first class. Get me on a plane." "But sir, the deal—" "I don't care about the deal." Marcus's voice cracked like a whip. "I don't care about the money. Something is wrong with my mother, and I'm going home. Now either help me or get out of my way." Mike swallowed hard and pulled out his phone. "I'll have you on a plane within the hour. Make it 30 minutes. Mike nodded and hurried out of the room. Marcus bent down to retrieve his phone. His fingers brushed against something else under the bed. Paper. Crumpled, soft, old paper. He pulled it out and his heart stopped. His mother's handwriting, shaky but clear. The letter she had pressed into his hand 3 days ago, right before he left for New York. He had shoved it into his pocket without reading it. Too busy, too important, too focused on his precious business deal. He unfolded it now with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. "My dearest son," the letter began. "I know you don't have time to listen to your old mother anymore. You are a busy man with important things to do. But I have to write this down because I am scared, Marcus. More scared than I have been since your father died and left us with nothing. Victoria is not the woman you think she is. When you leave, she changes. Her voice gets cold. Her eyes get hard. She calls me names I will not repeat because they would break your heart. She tells me I am nothing but a burden, that you keep me around out of guilt, that you wish I would hurry up and die so you could live your life without the weight of your useless old mother dragging you down. I tried to tell you so many times, but you always wave me away. You always say I'm imagining things. You always take her side. She threatened me last week, Marcus. She said, if I tell you any of this, she will have me committed to a mental institution. She said she has friends who can make it happen. She said no one will believe a confused old black woman over a respectable young wife. I am not confused. My mind is sharp. But I am old and weak and alone in this house with a woman who wants me gone. I pray every night that God will open your eyes before it's too late. If you're reading this letter, please come home. I need you. Your loving mother, Dorothy. Marcus read the letter 4 times. Then he fell to his knees and wept. All those times his mother had tried to warn him, and he had dismissed her concerns like they were nothing, like she was nothing. Victoria loves you, Mama. She's wonderful. You're just not used to sharing me with someone else. Mama, please. Victoria has been nothing but kind to you. You're imagining problems where there aren't any. I don't have time for this right now, Mama. We can talk about it when I get back from this trip. He had said those words. He had actually said those words to his own mother while she was living in fear under his own roof. What kind of son was he? Marcus grabbed his bag and ran for the door. He had to get home. He had to find his mother. He had to fix this. But even as he sprinted down the hotel hallway, a terrible thought wormed its way into his mind. What if he was already too late? Dorothy Thompson lay on the cold cement floor of the basement and counted her heartbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Still alive. Slower than yesterday, but still alive. She didn't know how long she had been down here anymore. Time had lost all meaning in the endless darkness. She knew it was at least 3 days because Victoria had slid food through the door 3 times. A few crackers, a bottle of water, just enough to keep her alive. "Can't have you dying on me too soon," Victoria had said through the door, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "That would raise too many questions. No, you need to hang on until I finish cleaning out your son's accounts. Then we'll figure out what to do with you. Maybe a nice accident. Old women fall downstairs all the time. So tragic. So believable." Dorothy had stopped screaming for help on the 2nd day. Her voice had given out, leaving nothing but a hoarse whisper that couldn't penetrate the thick oak door. Her fingernails were broken and bleeding from clawing at the wood. Her hip throbbed from lying on the hard floor. Her stomach had stopped growling and settled into a constant gnawing pain. But she was still alive, and she had something Victoria didn't know about. Dorothy clutched her red scarf against her chest. Inside its hidden pocket, she could feel the small rectangular shape of the cassette recorder her son had given her years ago. "Record your stories, Mama," Marcus had said when he gave it to her. "Your lullabies, your memories. I want to keep them forever." She had used it for exactly that purpose. Recorded herself singing the songs her own mother had sung to her. Recorded stories about Marcus's childhood. Recorded passages from her favorite books of the Bible. But 3 weeks ago, she had started using it for something else. She had started recording Victoria. "The old woman suspects something." Victoria's voice on the tape talking to her friend Linda on the phone. "She keeps looking at me like she knows. We need to move faster. Just lock her in the basement when Marcus leaves. Linda had replied. "Who's going to believe her over you? You're the devoted wife. She's the confused old mother with dementia." "She doesn't have dementia. That woman is sharp as a tack. That's the problem." "So make her look crazy. Hide her things. Move stuff around the house. Tell Marcus she's been forgetting things, wandering at night, talking to people who aren't there. By the time we're ready to move, everyone will believe she's lost her mind." Dorothy had recorded all of it. Every conversation, every whispered plan, every cruel word Victoria said when she thought no one was listening. The tape was her insurance, her proof, her only hope, if Marcus found her in time to hear it. Dorothy closed her eyes and did what she had done every hour since Victoria locked her in this basement. She prayed. "Lord, I know I'm just an old woman. I know my life isn't worth much to most people, but I have a son who needs to know the truth. Please, God, don't let me die in this darkness. Don't let that woman win. Send Marcus home, open his eyes, help him see what I've been trying to show him all along." A tear leaked from the corner of her eye and disappeared into the filthy blanket beneath her head. "Please, I'm not ready to die. Not like this. Not alone." Above her she heard footsteps, music, laughter, the sounds of a party in full swing. Victoria was celebrating. While she lay dying in the basement, Victoria was throwing a party. Dorothy pressed the scarf tighter against her heart and held on. Just a little longer. Marcus's plane landed at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport at 5:47 p.m. By 5:48, he was running through the terminal, shoving past businessmen with rolling suitcases and families with crying children. By 5:52, he was throwing himself into a taxi and shouting his address at the driver. "Buckhead, 1847 Whitmore Drive. There's $500 in it for you if you get me there in 15 minutes. The driver looked at him in the rearview mirror, saw something in his eyes that made him decide not to ask questions, and floored it. Marcus pulled out his phone and tried calling the house again. The phone rang and rang. No answer. He tried Victoria's cell phone, straight to voicemail. He tried his mother's cell phone, the one he had bought her for emergencies. Disconnected. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the phone. The taxi screeched to a halt in front of the iron gates of the Thompson mansion at 6:09 p.m. Marcus threw a wad of bills at the driver and launched himself out of the car before it fully stopped. The gates were locked. He punched in the security code and waited for them to swing open. They didn't move. Marcus punched in the code again. Nothing. Someone had changed the security code. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed the iron bars of the gate and started climbing. His expensive Italian shoes slipped on the metal. His suit jacket tore on a decorative spike at the top. He didn't care. He threw himself over the gate and landed hard on the driveway, his ankle twisting beneath him. Pain shot up his leg. He ignored it and ran for the front door. The house was dark, every window black. No lights in the foyer, the living room, the kitchen. At 6 o'clock in the evening, the entire mansion looked abandoned. Marcus's mother hated the dark. She had lived in darkness as a child, in a house where they couldn't afford electricity, and she had sworn she would never live that way again. Every night she turned on every light in the house until the place glowed like a beacon. The darkness was wrong. Everything was wrong. Marcus fumbled with his keys and unlocked the front door. It swung open with a creak that echoed through the empty house. The smell hit him first. Lavender. Thick, cloying, overwhelming. The air freshener Victoria used to make the house smell elegant. But there was too much of it. Way too much. Like someone had emptied bottle after bottle trying to cover up something else. And underneath the lavender, faint but unmistakable, was another smell. Decay. Marcus's stomach heaved. He pressed his hand over his mouth and stepped inside. "Mama!" he shouted. His voice bounced off the walls and came back empty. "Mama! Where are you, Victoria? Someone answer me!" Silence. He moved through the house, flipping light switches, throwing open doors. The kitchen was empty. Spotless. Too spotless. No dirty dishes, no food on the counter, no sign that anyone had cooked or eaten in days. The living room was the same. Perfect. Sterile. Wrong. His mother's bedroom stopped him cold. The bed was perfectly made, hospital corners and all. Her reading glasses sat on the nightstand next to her Bible. Her Bible. Dorothy Thompson didn't go anywhere without that Bible. She had carried it with her for 50 years, ever since her own mother had given it to her on her wedding day. The spine was cracked, the pages worn soft from daily reading. She took it to church. She took it to doctor's appointments. She took it to the grocery store. She would never leave it behind, not willingly. Marcus picked up the Bible with trembling hands. A photograph fell out from between the pages. Him, age 10, skinny gap-toothed, grinning at the camera, standing next to his mother in front of their tiny apartment, the one she had worked 3 jobs to afford. The one they had lived in before he made his fortune and moved her into this mansion. He had been so happy in that photograph. They both had. What had happened to them? Marcus tucked the photograph into his pocket and followed the smell. It got stronger as he moved toward the back of the house, stronger and stronger until his eyes watered and his throat burned. He passed the kitchen, the laundry room, the guest bathroom. The smell led him to a narrow hallway he rarely used, the one that led to the basement door. Marcus stopped breathing. Someone had nailed wooden planks across the door in an X pattern. Heavy planks, big nails. Professional quality construction, meant to keep that door sealed tight. Meant to keep something inside. Or someone. Marcus dropped to his knees and pressed his ear against the cold wood. At first he heard nothing. Just his own heartbeat pounding so loud it seemed to shake the walls. Then faint and broken, almost too soft to hear, a scratching sound, like fingernails dragging weakly across wood. And a voice, hoarse, barely a whisper. "Help, please. Someone help me." His mother's voice. Marcus screamed. He slammed his fists against the door, forgetting about the nails, forgetting about everything except the desperate need to reach her. "Mama, Mama, I'm here." "Can you hear me? I'm going to get you out." The scratching stopped. A pause. Then stronger this time, filled with something that might have been hope. "Marcus, baby, is that you?" Tears streamed down his face. "It's me, Mama, hold on. I'm going to break down this door." He looked around wildly for something to use. His eyes landed on the hallway closet. He threw it open and found exactly what he needed, a heavy iron crowbar left over from when they renovated the house. Marcus grabbed it and attacked the door like a man possessed. The first plank came free with a shriek of tearing wood, then the second, then the third. His arms burned, his shoulders screamed. He didn't care. He kept swinging, kept prying, kept destroying everything that stood between him and his mother. The last nail pulled free and the planks clattered to the floor. Marcus kicked the door open. The smell that rushed out nearly knocked him unconscious. 3 days of human waste, rotting food, and something else. Something that smelled like death itself. He stumbled down the stairs, his phone flashlight cutting through the darkness. The basement had been converted into a prison cell. Moldy pizza boxes scattered across the floor. Empty water bottles crushed and discarded. A plastic bucket in the corner that Marcus couldn't bring himself to look at. And in the far corner, curled up on a filthy blanket, was his mother. Dorothy Thompson looked like a skeleton. Her face was hollow, her cheeks sunken, her lips cracked and bleeding. She was still wearing the same dress she had worn 3 days ago, now stained and torn. Her gray hair, always so carefully styled, was matted to her head with sweat and dirt. But she was alive. "Mama!" Marcus rushed toward her and dropped to his knees. "Mama, I'm here. I found you. You're safe now. I'm going to get you out of here." He reached for her, and Dorothy screamed. A raw animal scream of pure terror. She threw up her arms to protect her face and scrambled backward, pressing herself against the wall like she was trying to disappear into it. "No, don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. I'll be good. I promise. I'll be good. Don't lock me in the dark again." Marcus froze. His mother was looking right at him, and she didn't know who he was. "Mama." His voice broke. "Mama, it's me. It's Marcus. Your son. I'm not going to hurt you. I would never hurt you." But Dorothy just kept screaming, kept pushing herself further into the corner, kept looking at him like he was the monster who had locked her in this basement. 3 days of darkness, 3 days of fear, 3 days of believing she was going to die alone. It had broken something inside her. Marcus sat back on his heels and let the tears come. He didn't try to touch her again. He didn't try to explain. He just stayed there crying silently while the woman who had given him everything cowered away from him in terror. "I'm sorry, Mama," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. I should have believed you. This is my fault. All of this is my fault." Dorothy's screams faded to whimpers. She peeked at him through her fingers, her eyes red and swollen. "Marcus!" Her voice cracked. "Is that really you?" "It's really me, Mama. I came home. I'm going to take care of you." "She said you wouldn't come." Dorothy's words tumbled out in a rush, 3 days of silence breaking like a dam. "She said you loved your money more than you loved me. She said you wouldn't notice I was gone. She said you wouldn't care." "I care, Mama. I care more than anything in the world. I'm sorry it took me so long. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. But I'm here now, and I'm never leaving you again." Dorothy stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly, painfully, she reached out one trembling hand. Marcus took it gently, afraid she might pull away again. She didn't. "I knew you would come," she whispered. "I prayed every day. I told God my boy will come. He might be busy and important, but he loves his mama. He'll come for me." Marcus brought her hand to his lips and kissed it. "I'll always come for you, Mama. Always." He helped her sit up, moving slowly, carefully, treating her like she was made of glass. She weighed nothing in his arms. 3 days of starvation had stripped away whatever remained of her already thin frame. "I have to get you to a hospital," he said. "Can you walk?" "I don't know. My hip. It hurts so bad." "I'll carry you." He scooped her up in his arms. She felt like a child, small and fragile, and completely dependent on him. He turned toward the stairs. "Wait," Dorothy said. Her hand clutched weakly at his collar. "The scarf, my red scarf. Don't leave it." Marcus looked back. The red scarf lay on the filthy blanket, half hidden in the shadows. "I'll get it, Mama." "No." Her grip tightened. "You have to get it now. It's important. There's something inside. Something she doesn't know about." Marcus carried his mother to the stairs and set her down gently on the bottom step. He went back for the scarf, picked it up, and felt something hard inside the fabric. "What is this?" "Evidence," Dorothy whispered. "I recorded everything. Every threat, every plan, every word she said when she thought no one was listening. It's all on the tape." Marcus stared at his mother with something like awe. 72 years old, locked in a basement, starving, dehydrated, terrified. And she had still found a way to fight back. "You're amazing, Mama. You know that." Dorothy managed a weak smile. "I learned from the best. Your grandmother used to say, never let anyone steal your voice. If they take your words, find another way to speak." Marcus wrapped the scarf around his mother's thin shoulders and lifted her in his arms again. "Let's get out of here." He carried her up the stairs, out of the darkness, into the light of the hallway above, and found Victoria standing in the foyer. She was dressed for a party. Tight black dress, designer heels, diamond earrings that Marcus had bought her for their anniversary. Her makeup was perfect. Her hair was perfect. Everything about her was perfect. Except for her eyes. Her eyes were the eyes of a predator who had just realized she was caught. "Marcus?" Victoria's voice was honey and broken glass. "You're home early. What a surprise." Marcus tightened his grip on his mother. Dorothy buried her face against his chest, trembling. "You," Marcus said. The word came out low and dangerous. "You did this." Victoria's expression flickered. Calculation, assessment, strategy. Then she smiled. "Did what, darling? I have no idea what you're talking about. I just got back from visiting my sister in Savannah. I've been gone for days. What happened here? Don't lie to me. Don't you dare lie to me. I'm not lying. Victoria took a step forward, her face transforming into a mask of concern. Oh my God, is that your mother? What happened to her? She looks terrible. We need to call an ambulance. You locked her in the basement. You nailed the door shut. You left her to die. What? Victoria's eyes went wide with theatrical shock. Marcus, that's insane. Why would I do something like that? I love your mother. You know I do. She told me everything. She's confused, Marcus. I've been telling you for months. Her mind is going. She probably locked herself in there by accident and forgot how to get out. It's not her fault. It's the dementia. My mother doesn't have dementia. Denial isn't healthy, darling. I know it's hard to accept, but I have it on tape. Victoria stopped talking. For the first time since Marcus had known her, she had absolutely nothing to say. She recorded you, Victoria. Every conversation with Linda. Every plan you made. Every threat. Every confession. It's all on tape, and I'm going to play it for every police officer, every lawyer, and every judge in the state of Georgia. Victoria's mask crumbled. The sweet, loving wife disappeared, and something cold and hard took her place. You're bluffing. Try me. They stood there in the foyer of the mansion Marcus had built with his own hands. The husband and the wife, the son and the mother, the victim and the predator. And somewhere in the distance, Marcus heard sirens. I called 911 from the basement, he said. They're coming for you, Victoria. It's over. Victoria looked at the front door, looked at Marcus, looked at the frail old woman in his arms. Then she ran. She bolted for the back of the house, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Marcus didn't chase her. He couldn't. Not with his mother in his arms. But it didn't matter. Because when Victoria threw open the back door, she found 3 police officers standing on the porch. The neighbors had heard the screaming. They had called the police 20 minutes ago. Victoria Chen, one of the officers said, you're under arrest for aggravated assault, unlawful imprisonment, and attempted murder. Victoria tried to run. She made it 3 steps before an officer tackled her to the ground. Marcus watched them handcuff his wife and drag her to her feet. She was screaming now, cursing, threatening. Every word that came out of her mouth was another nail in her coffin. He turned away. He didn't need to see anymore. It's over, Mama, he whispered. She can't hurt you anymore. Dorothy lifted her head from his chest. Her eyes were wet, but for the first time in 3 days, they weren't filled with fear. You came for me, she said. You actually came. I'll always come for you, Mama. Always. He carried her out the front door, past the police cars, with their flashing lights toward the ambulance that had just pulled up to the curb. Behind him, Victoria's screams faded into the night, and in his pocket, wrapped in an old red scarf, a cassette tape held the truth that would destroy her. The ambulance doors slammed shut, and Marcus watched the vehicle disappear down the driveway with his mother inside. The paramedics had taken one look at Dorothy and immediately started an IV line. Severe dehydration, malnutrition, possible kidney failure. They had rattled off the list of horrors while Marcus stood frozen, unable to breathe. Sir, you need to follow us to the hospital, one of them had said. She's asking for you. But Marcus couldn't move. Not yet. Because Victoria was still standing in his driveway, hands cuffed behind her back, flanked by 2 police officers. And she was smiling. That smile sent ice through his veins. It was the same smile she had given him on their wedding day. The same smile she wore when she promised to love and cherish his mother like her own. The same smile that had fooled him for 2 years. You think this is over? Victoria's voice cut through the chaos of flashing lights and radio static. You think you've won? Marcus walked toward her slowly, his fists clenched at his sides. My mother almost died because of you. Your mother is a senile old woman who doesn't know what day it is. Any lawyer worth his fee will have me out by morning. And when I get out, Marcus, I'm going to take everything. The house, the business, every penny you've ever earned. You'll be left with nothing but that useless old woman and her imaginary stories. One of the officers grabbed Victoria's arm. That's enough. Let's go. But Victoria wasn't finished. She leaned toward Marcus, her eyes glittering with malice. Ask yourself something, darling. Why do you think I married you? Did you really believe a woman like me could love a man like you? You were nothing but a bank account with legs, a means to an end. And your mother? She was just an obstacle, a speed bump on my road to your fortune. Marcus's hand shot out before he could stop himself. He grabbed Victoria by the collar of her designer dress and pulled her close. If my mother dies, I will destroy you. Not just in court, not just financially. I will make sure you spend the rest of your life rotting in a cell, and I will visit you every single year just to watch you suffer. Sir, step back. The officer pushed between them, forcing Marcus to release his grip. Victoria stumbled but kept her balance. She was still smiling, still confident, still convinced she was going to win. See you in court, darling, she called as the officer shoved her into the back of a patrol car. Don't forget to kiss your mother goodbye. She might not survive the night. The patrol car pulled away and Marcus stood alone in the driveway, shaking with rage. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Thompson, this is Detective James Carter, Atlanta PD. We need to talk about your wife. There's something you should know. Meet me at Grady Memorial Hospital in 1 hour. Marcus didn't waste another second. He jumped into his car and floored it toward the hospital. 45 minutes later, Marcus burst through the emergency room doors. The waiting area was chaos. Crying children, coughing elderly patients, overwhelmed nurses rushing between beds. Marcus pushed through the crowd, searching for someone who could tell him where his mother was. Dorothy Thompson, he said to the woman at the reception desk. She was brought in by ambulance about an hour ago. 72 years old, African American. Please, I need to see her. The receptionist typed something into her computer without looking up. Are you family? I'm her son. Room 147. But sir, the doctor wants to speak with you first. She's in critical condition. Critical condition. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He grabbed the edge of the desk to steady himself. Where's the doctor? He'll find you. Please take a seat in the waiting area. I'm not sitting anywhere. Take me to my mother, now. The receptionist finally looked up. She saw something in Marcus's face that made her reconsider. Down the hall, third door on your left. But sir, prepare yourself. It's not good. Marcus ran. He found room 147 and pushed through the door without knocking. Dorothy lay in the hospital bed, looking smaller and more fragile than he had ever seen her. Tubes snaked from her arms. Monitors beeped steadily beside her. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. Mama? Marcus crossed the room in 3 strides and took her hand. Mama, I'm here. Dorothy's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, she looked confused, lost. Then recognition dawned, and her cracked lips curved into a weak smile. My boy, you came back. I never left Mama. I followed the ambulance the whole way. I thought I dreamed it, finding me, carrying me out of that basement. I thought it was just another dream. Tears streamed down Marcus's face. He didn't bother wiping them away. It wasn't a dream. You're safe now. I've got you. Dorothy's grip tightened on his hand, weak but determined. The tape. Did you get the tape? I got it, Mama. It's safe. You have to listen to it, all of it. There's more on there than just Victoria. There's something else, something worse. What do you mean? Dorothy's eyes darted toward the door, checking to make sure they were alone. Victoria wasn't working alone, Marcus. She had help. Someone powerful. Someone who's been planning this for a long time. Who? Before Dorothy could answer, the door swung open. A tall man in a rumpled suit stepped into the room. He had the tired eyes of someone who had seen too much human cruelty, and the steady gaze of someone who had learned not to look away. Mr. Thompson, I'm Detective James Carter. We spoke on the phone. Marcus stood, positioning himself between the detective and his mother. What do you want? To help you if you'll let me." Carter closed the door behind him. "I've been investigating Victoria Chen for 18 months. She's not who she claims to be. I figured that out when I found my mother locked in my basement. It goes deeper than that. Victoria Chen isn't even her real name. Her real name is Victoria Santos. She's a con artist with a rap sheet longer than my arm. Identity theft. Elder fraud. She's targeted at least 6 wealthy men in the past decade. Married them isolated, their families drained their accounts and disappeared." Marcus felt the room spin around him. What happened to the other families? Carter's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. 3 of them had elderly parents living with them. None of those parents survived. The words hung in the air like poison. "You're telling me she's killed before. I'm telling you she's suspected of killing before. We've never been able to prove it. The deaths were always ruled accidental or natural causes. An old man who fell down the stairs, an elderly woman who took too many sleeping pills, a grandmother who wandered outside in the winter and froze to death." Dorothy made a sound from the bed, a soft whimper of fear. Marcus turned to her immediately. "Mama, it's okay. She's in custody. She can't hurt you anymore." "It's not her I'm worried about," Dorothy whispered. "It's the other one. The woman who helped her. She's still out there." Carter stepped closer. "What woman, Mrs. Thompson? Do you know who else was involved?" Dorothy's eyes went wide with terror. "Linda. Her name is Linda. She came to the house 3 times while Victoria was planning everything. I heard them talking. Linda was the one who told Victoria to lock me in the basement. She was the one who said no one would believe a confused old black woman." Carter pulled out a notepad. "Can you describe her?" "Tall, short hair. She dressed like a lawyer. Cold eyes. The kind of eyes that look right through you." Marcus's blood ran cold. "I know who that is. Linda Morrison. She's Victoria's best friend. They've been inseparable for years." "Do you know where she lives?" "No, but Victoria would know." Marcus grabbed his phone. "She's in custody. You can question her." Carter shook his head. "We tried. She's not talking. Demanded a lawyer the second we brought her in. The public defender is with her now. We can't get near her without her attorney present." "Then arrest Linda. You have my mother's testimony." "We need more than testimony. We need evidence. Without proof that Linda was directly involved, we can't touch her." Marcus wanted to scream. His mother had nearly died, and the woman who planned it was still walking free. "The tape," he said suddenly. "My mother recorded everything. Victoria's conversations with Linda, all of it." Carter's eyebrows shot up. "You have a recording." Marcus pulled the red scarf from his jacket pocket. He had kept it close ever since he found his mother. Now he reached inside the hidden pocket and pulled out the small cassette recorder. "Everything is on here. Every word they said." Carter took the recorder like it was made of gold. "This could change everything. If Linda's voice is on this tape planning the imprisonment, we can arrest her tonight." "Then do it. Listen to it now." Carter pressed play. The tape crackled to life. First there was static, then breathing, then voices. Victoria's voice sharp and cruel. "The old woman is getting suspicious. She keeps looking at me like she knows something." Then another voice, deeper, colder. "Stop worrying. Just lock her in the basement when Marcus leaves. Who's going to believe her? You're the perfect wife. She's just a confused old black woman who can't tell reality from fantasy." What if Marcus finds out? He won't. That man is so obsessed with money, he wouldn't notice if his mother disappeared for a month. Just stick to the plan. 3 days. That's all we need to finish forging the documents. Marcus listened, with his fists clenched so tight his nails drew blood from his palms. The tape continued. "What about after?" Victoria asked. "When we have the money, what do we do with her?" Linda's voice went quiet. When she spoke again, it was barely above a whisper. "Same thing we did with the others. Make it look like an accident. Old people die all the time. No one asks questions." The tape clicked off. Carter looked at Marcus with fire in his eyes. That's a confession to premeditated murder, multiple murders. This isn't just elder abuse anymore, Mr. Thompson. This is a serial killing operation. Then arrest them, both of them, tonight. Victoria's already in custody, but Linda... Carter's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his face went pale. No. What is it? Victoria's lawyer just posted bail. She's being released in 20 minutes. Marcus felt the ground shift beneath his feet. How is that possible? She locked my mother in a basement for 3 days. Someone paid $100,000 cash. Anonymous donor. The judge had no choice but to let her go. Linda paid her bail. Carter was already moving toward the door. I have to get to the station. If Victoria walks out of there before we can file new charges based on this tape, she's gone. She'll disappear and we'll never find her. I'm coming with you. Mr. Thompson, you need to stay with your mother. She's in critical condition. She needs you here. Marcus looked at Dorothy. She was watching him with those tired, frightened eyes. Go, she whispered. Don't let them get away with this. I didn't survive 3 days in that basement just to watch them walk free. Mama, I can't leave you alone. I'm not alone. God is with me. He brought you home when I needed you most. He'll keep me safe until you come back. Marcus kissed her forehead, tasting the salt of her dried sweat. I'll be back. I promise. He ran after Carter. They arrived at the police station 17 minutes later. Carter jumped out of the car before Marcus had even unbuckled his seatbelt. Stay here. This could get ugly. I'm not staying anywhere. They pushed through the front doors together. The station was in chaos. Officers shouting, phones ringing. Someone was arguing loudly at the front desk. And in the middle of it all, walking toward the exit with a triumphant smile on her face, was Victoria Chen. She had changed out of her designer dress into jeans and a simple blouse. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked like any other woman walking out of a bad situation, but her eyes were the same, cold, calculating, evil. She saw Marcus and stopped. Well, come to say goodbye. Carter stepped forward. Victoria Chen, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. Victoria laughed. I just made bail 5 minutes ago. You can't arrest me again for the same crime. This isn't the same crime. Carter held up the cassette recorder. This is new evidence. Evidence of multiple murders planned and executed by you and your associate, Linda Morrison. Victoria's smile flickered. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because your voice is pretty clear on this tape. Planning to lock an elderly woman in a basement. Discussing how to make her death look like an accident. Referencing the others you've killed before. Victoria's face went white. That tape is inadmissible. It was recorded without my consent. Georgia is a one-party consent state. Dorothy Thompson was a party to the conversations she recorded. Every word on this tape is admissible in court. For the first time since Marcus had met her, Victoria Chen looked afraid. You can't prove anything. That tape could be fabricated, edited. You have no other evidence. We have your co-conspirator, Carter said. Linda Morrison was picked up 20 minutes ago trying to board a flight to Mexico. She's in custody right now and she's already talking. Seems she doesn't want to go down for multiple murders alone. Victoria's composure shattered. That's a lie. Linda would never betray me. She gave us everything, names, dates, locations of the other victims. She's trading testimony for a reduced sentence. Carter pulled out his handcuffs. Victoria Chen, you are under arrest for the murders of Robert Hawkins, age 78, Margaret Sullivan, age 81, and George Palmer, age 76. You have the right to remain silent. Victoria started screaming as the cuffs clicked around her wrists. This isn't over. You can't do this to me. I have rights. I want my lawyer. Marcus watched them drag her away. He felt nothing. No satisfaction. No relief. Just emptiness. 3 people dead. 3 families destroyed. And his mother had come within hours of being the 4th victim. Carter walked back over, looking exhausted, but satisfied. It's done. She's not getting out this time. Not ever. What about Linda? She'll testify against Victoria in exchange for 20 years instead of life. It's not perfect, but it guarantees a conviction. Marcus nodded slowly. Thank you, Detective, for everything. Thank your mother. If she hadn't had the courage and the brains to record those conversations, we'd have nothing. Victoria would have walked, and she would have done this again to someone else. Marcus thought about Dorothy lying in that hospital bed fighting for her life. She's the strongest person I know. Then go be with her. She's earned it. Marcus drove back to the hospital alone. When he walked into room 147, Dorothy was awake. She looked at him with eyes that held a question she was afraid to ask. It's over, Mama. Victoria's in jail. Linda too. They're never getting out. Dorothy closed her eyes and tears leaked down her weathered cheeks. Thank you, Jesus, she whispered. Thank you for bringing my boy home. Marcus pulled a chair next to her bed and took her hand. I'm sorry, Mama, for everything. For not believing you. For putting my work ahead of my family. For letting that woman into our lives. Hush now. Dorothy squeezed his hand weakly. You came when I needed you. That's all that matters. It's not all that matters. I should have been there from the start. I should have listened. You're listening now. Marcus bowed his head over their joined hands. I'm selling the company, Mama. All of it. The business, the mansion, everything. We're going to start over. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere safe. Just you and me. Dorothy's eyes widened. Marcus, you worked your whole life for that company. And I almost lost my whole life because of it. You're more important than any business. More important than any amount of money. I forgot that somewhere along the way. But I remember now. Dorothy reached up with her free hand and touched her son's face. You're a good man, Marcus Thompson. Your father would be so proud of you. I learned from the best, Mama, from you. They sat together in silence as the night deepened outside the hospital window. Mother and son. Survivor and rescuer. Two people who had been through hell and come out the other side. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and courtrooms and difficult questions. But tonight, they had each other. And that was enough. 3 weeks had passed since that night at the police station, and Marcus hadn't slept more than 4 hours at a time. He spent his days at the hospital and his nights staring at the ceiling of a hotel room, replaying every conversation he had ever had with Victoria, searching for signs he should have seen. Dorothy was getting stronger. The doctors said she was a miracle. 72 years old, 3 days without proper food or water, and her heart was still beating strong. Your mother has the constitution of a woman half her age, Dr. Williams had told him. Whatever she's been through in her life, it made her tough. Marcus knew exactly what had made her tough. Poverty. Loss. Working 3 jobs while raising a son alone. Dorothy Thompson had survived worse than Victoria Chen long before that monster ever walked into their lives. But the physical healing was only part of the battle. Every night Dorothy woke up screaming. Marcus heard it from the hallway where he had taken to sleeping in a chair outside her room. The nurses had tried to make him leave, but he had refused. He wasn't letting his mother out of his sight. Not anymore. Tonight was no different. At 2:47 a.m., Dorothy's scream pierced the quiet of the hospital ward. Marcus was on his feet and through the door before the sound had finished echoing off the walls. Mama! Mama! I'm here! Dorothy was sitting up in bed, her eyes wild, her hands clawing at invisible attackers. She was back in that basement, back in the darkness, back in the nightmare she couldn't escape even in sleep. Don't lock me in. Please don't lock me in. I'll be good. I promise. I'll be good. Marcus grabbed her hands gently but firmly. Mama, look at me. Look at my face. You're not in the basement. You're in the hospital. You're safe. I'm right here. Dorothy's eyes slowly focused on her son's face. The terror faded, replaced by confusion, then recognition, then shame. Marcus. Oh, Marcus, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for. I keep going back there. Every time I close my eyes, I'm back in that darkness. I can smell it. I can feel the cold floor under my body. I can hear her laughing through the door." Marcus sat on the edge of the bed and pulled his mother into his arms. She was trembling, her thin body shaking like a leaf in a storm. "The doctor said the nightmares will stop eventually. Your mind is processing the trauma. It takes time." "What if they never stop? What if I spend the rest of my life trapped in that basement?" "Then I'll be there every time you wake up, every single time, for as long as it takes." Dorothy pulled back and looked at her son with eyes that had seen too much. "I need to tell you something, Marcus. Something I should have told you a long time ago." "What is it?" "I knew. About Victoria. I knew from the very beginning." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "What do you mean?" "The first time I met her, I saw something in her eyes. Something cold. Something empty, like looking into the eyes of a shark. I tried to tell you. Remember that first dinner we all had together?" Marcus remembered. Dorothy had pulled him aside in the kitchen and whispered, "There's something wrong with that woman, Marcus. I don't trust her." He had laughed it off, told her she was being overprotective, told her to give Victoria a chance. "I remember, Mama. You didn't listen. And I stopped talking. I told myself I was being paranoid, an old woman jealous of a young, beautiful woman stealing her son's attention. I convinced myself I was wrong." "You weren't wrong." "No, I wasn't. But I stopped trusting my own instincts. I let her into our home. I let her into our lives. And when she started showing her true face, when she started treating me like dirt under her shoe, I was too ashamed to fight back." "Mama, none of this is your fault." "Let me finish." Dorothy's voice hardened with a strength that surprised them both. "She used to whisper things to me when you weren't looking, horrible things. She told me I was a burden. She told me you resented having to take care of me. She told me you wished I would die so you could finally be free." Marcus felt rage building in his chest like a volcano preparing to erupt. "That's a lie. I never thought any of those things, not once. I know that now. But back then, alone in that house with her while you were away on business, I started to believe it. She was so convincing, Marcus. So sweet to your face, and so cruel when your back was turned. After a while, I didn't know what was real anymore. That's what abusers do, Mama. They make you doubt yourself. They make you think you're the crazy one." I know that now." Dorothy took a shaky breath. "But there's something else. Something I've never told anyone." She paused for so long that Marcus thought she might not continue. "The night before you left for New York, Victoria came to my room. It was late. You were already asleep. She sat on the edge of my bed and she smiled at me. That terrible empty smile." Dorothy's voice dropped to a whisper. "She told me what she was going to do. She told me she was going to lock me in the basement and let me die there. She told me exactly how it would happen, step by step, like she was reading from a script. And then she asked me if I had any last words for my son." Marcus couldn't breathe. "What did you say?" "I told her that my God would protect me, that my son would come for me, and that when this was all over she would spend the rest of her life paying for what she did." And then she laughed. She laughed and she said, "Your God can't help you. Your son doesn't care. And I've gotten away with this 5 times before. What makes you think this time will be any different?" Marcus stood up so fast, the chair behind him crashed to the floor. 5 times. She told you she had done this 5 times. That's what she said. 5 other families. 5 other elderly parents who trusted the wrong person. We only knew about 3. The detective said they had evidence of 3 other victims. Dorothy's eyes widened. "Then there are 2 more out there. 2 more families who don't know what happened to their loved ones." Marcus was already reaching for his phone. "I have to call Detective Carter." He dialed the number and waited. It rang 4 times before a groggy voice answered. "Carter here. This better be important. It's 3 in the morning. It's Marcus Thompson. My mother just told me something. Victoria confessed to her before the basement. She said she had done this 5 times before. Not 3. 5. Silence on the other end of the line. "Mr. Thompson, are you certain about this?" "My mother doesn't lie, Detective, and she doesn't forget. Victoria told her 5. That means we have two unidentified victims, two families who might still think their loved ones died of natural causes. Can you find them? I'll pull Victoria's known associates and travel history going back 10 years. If she was involved in two more deaths, there will be a trail. There's always a trail. Call me the second you find anything. I will. And Mr. Thompson, get some sleep. You sound like hell. Marcus hung up and turned back to his mother. The detective is going to look into it. If there are two more victims, he'll find them. Dorothy nodded slowly, but her eyes were distant. Marcus, there's one more thing. What? The morning you left for New York, I gave you that letter, the one warning you about Victoria. I know, I should have read it right away. I should have... That's not what I'm trying to say. Dorothy's voice was urgent now. There was something else I tried to give you. A photograph. An old photograph I found hidden in Victoria's things. Marcus went still. What photograph? It was hidden in the back of her jewelry box. I found it when I was cleaning her room. It showed Victoria with another man, not you, someone older. They were dressed for a wedding, Marcus. She was wearing a white dress. He was wearing a tuxedo. Victoria was married before. That's what I thought. But here's the thing. The man in the photograph looked familiar. I couldn't place him at first. But after I found it, after I studied it for hours trying to figure out why I recognized him, it finally came to me. Dorothy grabbed Marcus's arm with surprising strength. The man in the photograph was Robert Hawkins. Marcus felt the floor shift beneath his feet. Robert Hawkins, one of the victims. The first victim, the one the police said fell down the stairs. Marcus Victoria married him. She married him, she killed him, and then she married you. That means... It means she never divorced him. It means your marriage to Victoria might not even be legal. Marcus's mind raced. Where is the photograph now? Dorothy's face crumpled. That's just it. I tried to give it to you the morning you left. But Victoria saw me. She came up behind me and snatched it out of my hand. She burned it right in front of me, dropped it into the fireplace, and watched it turn to ash. So there's no evidence. There might be. Dorothy's eyes lit up with a spark of hope. The photograph had a watermark on the back. A photography studio, Memories Forever it was called, in Birmingham, Alabama. If that studio still exists, they might have copies, or records, or something. Marcus was already moving toward the door. I have to go to Birmingham. Now, it's the middle of the night. I'll leave at first light. This could be the key to everything, Mama. If Victoria was married to Robert Hawkins, if we can prove that connection, it ties her directly to his murder. Not just suspicion, not just circumstantial evidence. Proof. Dorothy reached out and grabbed his hand. Be careful, Marcus. Victoria might be in jail, but Linda is still out there. And if there are other people involved, people we don't know about yet, they might try to stop you. I'll be careful. Promise me. Marcus leaned down and kissed his mother's forehead. I promise. Now get some sleep. When I get back, this nightmare will finally be over. He didn't know how wrong he was. The drive to Birmingham took 3 hours and 47 minutes. Marcus left the hospital at 6 a.m. and arrived in the city just before 10. Memories Forever Photography Studio was located in a strip mall on the outskirts of town. The sign was faded, the paint peeling, but the lights were on and the door was unlocked. Marcus walked in and found himself face to face with an elderly man behind a cluttered counter. The man looked up from a stack of old photographs and squinted at him through thick glasses. Can I help you? I hope so. I'm looking for records from a wedding you might have photographed, maybe 15-20 years ago. That's a long time. Most of our old records were destroyed in a fire back in 2015. Marcus's heart sank. All of them. Most of them. The old man scratched his chin. What's the name? Victoria Chen. Or maybe Victoria Santos. The groom was Robert Hawkins. The man's eyes widened behind his glasses. Hawkins? Now that's a name I haven't heard in a while. You remember them. Hard to forget. That was one of the strangest weddings I ever photographed. The bride was beautiful, young, charming, but there was something off about her, something in her eyes. Marcus leaned forward. Do you have copies of the photographs? Like I said, most of our records were destroyed. But some of the older albums, the ones from special clients, we stored in a safety deposit box at the bank. Robert Hawkins was a wealthy man. He paid extra for the premium package. Is it possible those photographs survived? The old man studied Marcus for a long moment. You mind telling me why you're so interested in this particular wedding? Robert Hawkins is dead. So are at least 2 other men connected to that woman, and the police think she killed all of them. The old man's face went pale. Lord have mercy. I need those photographs. They could be the evidence that puts her away forever. The man was already reaching for his keys. The bank is 2 blocks down. I'll take you there myself. 15 minutes later, Marcus stood in the vault of First National Bank of Birmingham, watching the old photographer open a safety deposit box that hadn't been touched in over a decade. Inside were dozens of photograph albums, each one labeled with a name and date. The photographer flipped through them until he found one near the bottom. Hawkins Santos, June 15, 2008. He handed the album to Marcus. Marcus opened it with trembling hands. The first photograph showed Victoria younger but unmistakable standing next to an elderly man in a tuxedo. She was wearing a white wedding dress. She was smiling that same cold, empty smile Marcus knew so well. That's her, he whispered. That's Victoria. He flipped through the album. Wedding ceremony, reception, cake cutting, first dance. Every photograph showed Victoria playing the perfect bride, while Robert Hawkins looked at her with adoration in his eyes. He never knew what was coming. None of them ever knew. Marcus turned to the last page and stopped breathing. There, tucked into a plastic sleeve, was a document. A marriage certificate. Victoria Santos and Robert Hawkins. Married June 15, 2008. Never divorced. Marcus had proof. Victoria had married him while still legally married to another man. Their entire marriage was a fraud. Every document she had signed, every legal claim she had made, every penny she had tried to steal was built on a foundation of lies. I need to take this, Marcus said. All of it. This is evidence in a murder investigation. Take whatever you need. Just nail that woman to the wall. Marcus grabbed the album and ran for his car. He was halfway back to Atlanta when his phone rang. Detective Carter. Mr. Thompson, where are you? On my way back from Birmingham. I found something. A marriage certificate proving Victoria was still married to Robert Hawkins when she married me. Our marriage was never legal. That's great news, but we have a bigger problem. Marcus's grip tightened on the steering wheel. What kind of problem? Linda Morrison escaped custody 3 hours ago. She was being transported to the courthouse for her plea hearing when the transport van was ambushed. 2 guards are dead. Linda is in the wind. The world tilted sideways. How is that possible? She had help. Professional help. We're talking about a coordinated extraction team. This wasn't some desperate escape attempt. This was planned. Who would have the resources to do something like that? That's what we're trying to figure out. But Mr. Thompson, there's something else you need to know. What? The transport van was ambushed on Highway 85, 5 miles from Grady Memorial Hospital. Marcus floored the accelerator. They're going after my mother. We don't know that for certain. Don't lie to me, detective. Linda knows my mother can identify her. She knows my mother has been talking to the police. She's the only witness who can tie Linda directly to the conspiracy. I've already dispatched units to the hospital. Your mother is being moved to a secure location as we speak. I'll be there in 40 minutes. Mr. Thompson, don't do anything stupid. Marcus hung up and pushed the car to its limits. His mother had survived 3 days in a basement. He wasn't going to let anyone take her from him now. Marcus made it to Grady Memorial Hospital in 32 minutes. He ran 3 red lights and nearly sideswiped a delivery truck on Peachtree Street. None of it mattered. The only thing that mattered was getting to his mother before Linda did. He abandoned his car at the emergency entrance and sprinted through the automatic doors. The lobby was chaos. Police officers everywhere, nurses being questioned, patients being evacuated from the upper floors. Marcus grabbed the first officer he saw. "Dorothy Thompson, room 147. Where is she?" The officer looked at him with confusion. "Sir, I need you to calm down. We're in the middle of a security situation." "I know about the security situation. Linda Morrison escaped custody. She's coming for my mother. Now tell me where Dorothy Thompson is." "Marcus." He spun around. Detective Carter was pushing through the crowd, his face grim. "Thank God you're here. We need to talk." "I don't want to talk. I want to see my mother." "Your mother is safe. We moved her to a secure location on the 4th floor. Armed guards at every entrance. Nobody's getting to her." Marcus felt some of the tension drain from his shoulders, but only some. "Where exactly?" "Room 412. I'll take you there." "But Marcus, there's something you need to see first." Carter pulled out his phone and showed Marcus a photograph. It was a surveillance image from a gas station. Grainy black and white, but clear enough to make out the faces of 2 women standing next to a black SUV. One of them was Linda Morrison. The other was a woman Marcus had never seen before. Tall, blonde, expensive clothes. The kind of woman who looked like she had never worked a day in her life. "Who is that?" "We don't know yet, but we ran the plates on that SUV. It's registered to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. Whoever this woman is, she has resources. Serious resources." "What does that mean?" "It means Linda didn't escape alone. She has backing, money, infrastructure. This isn't just about Victoria and Linda anymore, Marcus. We're looking at something much bigger." Marcus stared at the photograph, his mind racing. "Victoria mentioned something to my mother. She said she had gotten away with this 5 times. We only know about 3 victims. What if the other 2 weren't just random targets? What if they were connected to something?" "Connected to what?" "I don't know, but that woman in the photograph might." Carter nodded slowly. "We're working every angle. But right now, my priority is keeping your mother safe. Let's get you up to the 4th floor." They took the elevator in tense silence. Marcus clutched the photograph album from Birmingham against his chest like a shield. When the doors opened on the 4th floor, Marcus saw what Carter had meant about security. There were at least 8 officers stationed along the hallway, all of them armed, all of them alert. Room 412 was at the end of the corridor, flanked by 2 more officers. Marcus pushed past them and opened the door. Dorothy was sitting up in bed looking tired but alert. When she saw her son, her face broke into a smile. "Marcus, thank the Lord." He crossed the room and took her hand. "Are you okay? Did anyone hurt you?" "I'm fine. These nice officers got me out of my room before I even knew what was happening. They said something about a dangerous woman escaping from custody." "Linda Morrison, Victoria's partner." Dorothy's face went pale. "She's free." "Not for long. The police are looking for her. She can't hide forever." "But why would she come after me? I already gave my testimony. Hurting me won't change anything." Marcus hesitated. He didn't want to scare his mother more than she already was, but she deserved to know the truth. "Mama, you're the only witness who can tie Linda directly to the conspiracy. Without you, the case against her falls apart. She's desperate." Dorothy's grip tightened on his hand. "Then let her come. I'm not afraid of that woman. Not anymore." "You don't have to be afraid. I'm not letting anyone near you." Before Dorothy could respond, Marcus's phone buzzed. An unknown number. He answered cautiously. "Hello?" "Mr. Thompson, we need to talk." The voice was female, cold, cultured, completely unfamiliar. "Who is this?" "Someone who has information you need. Information about Victoria, about Linda, about everything." "I'm listening." "Not over the phone. Meet me at the Westin Hotel downtown, room 1847. Come alone." "Why should I trust you?" Because if you don't, your mother will be dead by morning. Linda isn't working alone, Mr. Thompson. She's working for me, and I'm the only one who can call her off." The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone, his blood running cold. "Who was that?" Dorothy asked. "I don't know, but I think I just found the person behind all of this." "What did she say?" Marcus looked at his mother, then at Detective Carter, who had followed him into the room. "She wants to meet. She says she can call off Linda. She says if I don't come, Mama will be dead by morning." Carter stepped forward. "That's a trap. You can't go." "If I don't go, she'll send Linda after my mother. Can you guarantee her safety? Can you promise me that Linda won't find a way through your security?" Carter's silence was answer enough. "I have to go." "Then I'm coming with you." She said come alone. If she sees police, she might panic. She might give Linda the order. "Marcus, this is suicide. It's my mother's life. I don't have a choice." Dorothy reached out and grabbed her son's arm. "Marcus, no. Don't do this. I'm not worth dying for." Marcus knelt beside her bed and looked into her eyes. "Mama, you worked 3 jobs to raise me. You sacrificed everything so I could have a future. You spent 3 days in a basement praying I would come for you. Now it's my turn to sacrifice. I'm going to end this, tonight. And if you don't come back, then I'll die knowing I finally put my family first." He kissed her forehead and stood up. "Detective, I need you to do something for me. If I'm not back in 2 hours, take my mother somewhere safe. Get her out of Georgia. Change her name if you have to. Just keep her alive." Carter nodded grimly. "You have my word." Marcus walked out of the room without looking back. If he had turned around, he would have seen his mother crying silently into her pillow. The Westin Hotel was a 20-minute drive from the hospital. Marcus made it in 12. He left his car with the valet and walked through the gleaming lobby toward the elevators. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. Whatever was waiting for him in room 1847, he was ready. The elevator seemed to take forever. When the doors finally opened on the 18th floor, Marcus stepped out into a silent hallway. Room 1847 was at the end of the corridor. The door was slightly ajar. Marcus pushed it open and stepped inside. The blonde woman from the surveillance photograph was sitting in an armchair by the window. She was even more striking in person. Ice blue eyes, perfect posture, the kind of beauty that was more intimidating than inviting. "Mr. Thompson, thank you for coming. Who are you?" "My name is Catherine Wells. I'm Victoria's older sister." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "Victoria doesn't have a sister. She told me she was an only child." "Victoria tells everyone that. It's easier than explaining the truth." Catherine gestured to a chair across from her. "Please, sit. We have much to discuss." Marcus didn't move. "Start talking. What do you want?" Catherine smiled. It was the same cold, empty smile Victoria wore. The family resemblance was unmistakable. "What I want is simple. I want the evidence you collected in Birmingham. The marriage certificate, the photographs, everything that ties Victoria to Robert Hawkins." "Why?" "Because Victoria is my responsibility. She has been since we were children. I've spent 20 years cleaning up her messes, protecting her from the consequences of her actions. I'm not about to stop now." "Your sister murdered at least 5 people. She locked my mother in a basement to die. You want me to just hand over the evidence and pretend none of that happened?" "I want you to be practical, Mr. Thompson. You're a businessman. You understand negotiation. I'm offering you a deal." "What kind of deal?" Catherine leaned forward, her eyes locked on his. "Give me the evidence and I'll give you Linda. I'll call her off. Your mother lives. Your nightmare ends. You can go back to your comfortable life and pretend this whole ugly business never happened. And Victoria? Victoria will be my problem. I'll make sure she never hurts anyone again." "You mean you'll help her escape?" "I mean I'll do what I've always done. Protect my family." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Your family, Victoria, isn't family. She's a monster, and from what I'm seeing, so are you." Catherine's expression didn't change. Monsters are made, Mr. Thompson, not born. Victoria and I grew up in a house where love was conditional and cruelty was the norm. We learned very early that the only people we could trust were each other. I don't expect you to understand, but I do expect you to make a rational decision. The rational decision is to put you both in prison. Then your mother dies. Tonight. Linda is already in position. One phone call from me and your mother takes her last breath. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. He wanted to grab this woman by the throat and squeeze until the smugness drained from her eyes. But he couldn't. Not yet. How do I know you'll keep your word? How do I know you won't just take the evidence and have Linda kill my mother anyway? Because I'm not Victoria. I don't kill for pleasure. I kill for necessity. Your mother is only a threat if she can testify. If the evidence disappears, her testimony becomes hearsay. Useless in court. There's no reason to harm her. Except revenge. Catherine shook her head. Revenge is wasteful. I'm not a wasteful person. Marcus's mind raced. He needed to buy time. He needed to find a way out of this that didn't end with his mother dead. The evidence isn't here. I left it at the hospital with Detective Carter. Catherine's eyes narrowed. You're lying. Am I? You think I would walk into a meeting with the woman protecting my wife's killer, carrying the only evidence that can put her away? I'm not stupid. Neither am I. Catherine pulled out her phone. I can have Linda at the hospital in 15 minutes. Is that what you want? Wait. Marcus held up his hands. Just wait. Let's talk about this. We're done talking. You have 1 minute to tell me where the evidence is, or I make the call. Marcus's mind was spinning. He needed a plan. He needed something. And then he remembered. The cassette tape. The recording his mother had made. It was still in Detective Carter's possession. Even if Catherine destroyed the photographs and the marriage certificate, the tape remained. The tape that had Victoria's voice confessing to multiple murders. The tape that mentioned Linda by name. Catherine didn't know about the tape. Fine, Marcus said slowly. You want to make a deal? Let's make a deal. But I want to hear Linda confirm she's standing down. I want to talk to her directly. Catherine studied him for a long moment. Why? Because I don't trust you. Your sister lied to me for 2 years. I'm not taking any chances. Catherine considered this. Then she picked up her phone and dialed. Linda, I have Mr. Thompson here. He wants to speak with you before we proceed. She handed the phone to Marcus. Hello, Marcus. Linda's voice was calm, almost pleasant, like they were old friends catching up. Catherine tells me you're being difficult. Where are you? Close enough. Your mother's room has 2 guards outside. A nurse checks on her every 30 minutes. The window faces east. Should I go on? Marcus's blood ran cold. She was watching the hospital, right now. If you hurt her, I don't want to hurt anyone. I want this to be over. Give Catherine what she wants, and we can all move on with our lives. And if I don't, then I do what I do best. And believe me, Marcus, your mother won't be the first old black woman I've helped out of this world. She won't even be the 5th. The casual cruelty in Linda's voice made Marcus want to vomit. You're a monster. I'm a survivor, just like Victoria, just like Catherine. We do what we have to do. Now, are you going to be smart about this, or do I need to get my hands dirty? Marcus looked at Catherine, who was watching him with those cold, calculating eyes. And then he made his decision. The evidence is in my car, in the trunk. I'll take you to it. Catherine smiled. A wise choice. She stood and gestured toward the door. After you, Mr. Thompson. They walked out of the hotel together, Marcus in front, Catherine close behind. He could feel her presence like a cold shadow at his back. When they reached the valet stand, Marcus handed over his ticket. A minute later, his car pulled up. Open the trunk, Catherine ordered. Marcus popped the trunk and stepped aside. Catherine moved forward, her eyes scanning the interior. The photograph album from Birmingham sat in plain sight. She reached for it. And that's when the police cars screamed into the parking lot. Catherine spun around, her face contorting with fury. "You set me up. I had no choice. You were going to kill my mother either way. Linda is being arrested right now. Detective Carter traced the call she made to you. They had her location the moment she answered the phone." Catherine's composure finally cracked. For the first time, Marcus saw fear in her eyes. "You can't do this. Do you have any idea who I am? The people I know." "I don't care who you are. I don't care who you know. You threatened my mother. That's all I need to know." Detective Carter emerged from one of the police cars flanked by a dozen officers. "Catherine Wells, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, and threatening a witness. You have the right to remain silent." Catherine didn't struggle as they cuffed her. She just stared at Marcus with those ice-blue eyes, her face a mask of cold hatred. "This isn't over," she said quietly. "Victoria and I have friends in very high places. This is far from over. Maybe, but for tonight my mother is safe. That's all that matters." They loaded Catherine into a police car and drove away. Marcus stood in the parking lot, his legs shaking, his heart still racing. He had done it. He had actually done it. His phone rang. "Detective Carter. We got Linda. She was exactly where the trace said she'd be. She's in custody. This time, she's not getting out. And my mother, safe." The guards at the hospital confirmed she never left her room. "It's over, Marcus. Really over." Marcus closed his eyes and let out a breath he felt like he had been holding for weeks. "Thank you, Detective, for everything. Thank your mother. Her recordings broke this case wide open. Without her, none of this would have been possible." Marcus hung up and looked up at the night sky. The stars were hidden behind Atlanta's lights, but he knew they were there, just like he knew his mother's prayers had been heard. He got in his car and drove back to the hospital. When he walked into room 412, Dorothy was awake waiting for him. "Is it over?" she asked, her voice trembling with hope. Marcus crossed the room and took her hand. "It's over, Mama. Catherine is in custody. Linda too. They can't hurt you anymore." Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. "I was so scared, Marcus. When you left, I thought I would never see you again. I promised I would come back. I always keep my promises." Dorothy pulled him into a hug, her thin arms surprisingly strong. "My boy, my precious boy. God brought you back to me. God and a little bit of luck. There's no such thing as luck, only blessings we don't understand yet." Marcus held his mother close and let the tears come. They had been through hell together. But they had come out the other side. 2 months after Catherine Wells was arrested in that hotel parking lot, Marcus Thompson sat in the front row of courtroom 4B at the Fulton County Superior Court. His mother sat beside him, her hand clasped tightly in his. She had gained back some of the weight she lost in that basement, and the color had returned to her cheeks. But her eyes still carried shadows that Marcus knew would never fully disappear. Today was the day they had been waiting for, the trial of Victoria Chen Linda Morrison and Catherine Wells. The courtroom was packed. Reporters filled every available seat. Camera crews waited outside ready to capture the verdict for the evening news. The case had become a national sensation. The black millionaire whose elderly mother was locked in a basement by his con artist wife. The headlines wrote themselves. Marcus ignored all of it. He only had eyes for the 3 women sitting at the defense table. Victoria looked different. Prison had stripped away her polish. Her hair was limp, her skin pale, her designer clothes replaced by an orange jumpsuit. But her eyes were the same. Cold, empty, calculating. Linda sat beside her, staring straight ahead, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. She had tried to cut a deal with prosecutors offering testimony against Victoria and Catherine in exchange for a reduced sentence. The DA had rejected her offer. They didn't need her testimony anymore. They had something better. Catherine was the surprise. While Victoria had crumbled and Linda had panicked, Catherine remained composed. She sat with perfect posture, her face a mask of indifference, as if this trial was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Marcus hated her most of all. Victoria was a monster, but Catherine was the one who had enabled her, protected her, helped her escape justice for 20 years. Without Catherine, Victoria might have been caught after her first victim. 5 people might still be alive. The judge entered and everyone rose. "Please be seated," Judge Harrison said, settling into her chair. "Before we proceed with closing arguments, I understand the prosecution has additional evidence to present." District Attorney Michelle Torres stood, her expression grave. "Your Honor, in the past 48 hours, we have discovered information that significantly expands the scope of this case. With the court's permission, I would like to call an additional witness." The defense attorneys erupted in objections. Judge Harrison silenced them with a look. "I'll allow it. Prosecution may call their witness." DA Torres turned toward the gallery. "The prosecution calls Special Agent David Chen, FBI." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Marcus felt his mother's grip tighten on his hand. FBI. What did the FBI have to do with this? A tall Asian man in a dark suit walked to the witness stand. He was sworn in and took his seat, his expression neutral but alert. "Agent Chen, please state your position and explain how you became involved in this case." "I'm a special agent with the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. 6 weeks ago, Detective James Carter of the Atlanta Police Department contacted our office regarding unusual financial transactions connected to the defendants in this case." "What did your investigation uncover?" Agent Chen pulled out a thick folder. "What started as an elder abuse case has turned into one of the largest fraud operations we've ever seen. Victoria Chen, Linda Morrison, and Catherine Wells are not just murderers. They're the core members of a criminal organization that has been targeting wealthy elderly Americans for over 2 decades. The courtroom exploded. Reporters began typing furiously on their phones. The defense attorneys shouted objections. Judge Harrison banged her gavel repeatedly. "Order, I will have order in this courtroom." Marcus sat frozen, his mind reeling. A criminal organization, 2 decades. When the noise finally died down, DA Torres continued. "Agent Chen, can you elaborate on the scope of this organization?" "Our investigation has identified at least 17 victims across 12 states. The pattern was always the same. One of the defendants would identify a wealthy target, usually a widower or divorcee, with elderly parents living with them. They would initiate a romantic relationship, gain access to the family, and then systematically isolate and eliminate the elderly family member. Eliminate, murder, ma'am, made to look like accidents or natural causes. Once the elderly family member was out of the way, they would drain the target's finances and move on to the next victim." Marcus turned to look at his mother. Tears were streaming down her face. 17 people, she whispered. "They killed 17 people. The total estimated financial loss exceeds $47 million. Agent Chen continued. "But the human cost is immeasurable. 17 elderly Americans, parents, grandparents, people who trusted the wrong person and paid with their lives." DA Torres approached the witness stand. "Agent Chen, were you able to identify how these 3 women avoided detection for so long?" "Catherine Wells is the key. While Victoria and Linda handled the ground-level operations, Catherine managed the infrastructure. Shell companies, offshore accounts, falsified documents, even bribes to local officials in some cases. She created a system that allowed them to operate with near-total impunity." "What changed? Why were they finally caught?" Agent Chen looked directly at Marcus and Dorothy. "Dorothy Thompson. She's the first victim who fought back, the first one who gathered evidence, the first one who survived long enough to tell her story. Without her courage, we would never have unraveled this operation." Dorothy let out a small sob. Marcus put his arm around her shoulders. "It's okay, Mama. It's almost over." DA Torres turned to face the jury. "Your Honor, based on this new evidence, the prosecution is amending the charges against all 3 defendants." We are now seeking multiple counts of first-degree murder, racketeering, wire fraud, and criminal conspiracy. We are also requesting that this case be transferred to federal court given the interstate nature of the crimes." Judge Harrison nodded slowly. "The court will take a brief recess to consider this request. We will reconvene in 1 hour." The gavel came down, and the courtroom erupted into chaos. Marcus helped his mother to her feet and guided her toward the exit. Reporters shouted questions at them from every direction. "Mr. Thompson, did you know about the other victims?" "Mrs. Thompson, how does it feel to know you saved potentially dozens of lives?" "Can you comment on the FBI's involvement?" Marcus ignored them all. He kept his arm around his mother and pushed through the crowd until they reached a quiet hallway. Dorothy was shaking. 17 people, Marcus. Those women killed 17 people, and I almost became number 18. "But you didn't. You survived. You fought back." "I didn't fight back. I hid a tape recorder in my scarf. That's not fighting." Marcus knelt in front of his mother and took both her hands. "Mama, listen to me. You spent 3 days in a basement with no food, no water, and no hope. You could have given up. You could have closed your eyes and let yourself slip away. But you didn't. You held on. You prayed. You kept that recorder safe because you believed someone would find it. That's not hiding, Mama. That's fighting. The bravest kind of fighting there is." Dorothy looked at her son with eyes full of tears. "When did you become so wise?" "I learned from the best." Detective Carter appeared at the end of the hallway. "Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Thompson, the DA would like to speak with you before court resumes." They followed Carter to a small conference room where DA Torres was waiting. "Please sit down. I know this has been overwhelming, but there's something else you need to know." Marcus felt his stomach clench. What now? "As part of our investigation, we've been tracking Catherine Wells's network, the friends in high places she mentioned when she was arrested. We've identified several of them." "Who are they?" Torres hesitated. 2 state senators, a federal judge, the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and several high-ranking officials in various law enforcement agencies. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. "You're telling me Catherine had judges and cops on her payroll?" "We're telling you that this organization had tentacles reaching into every level of government and business. Catherine didn't just protect Victoria. She built an empire of corruption." Dorothy spoke up, her voice stronger than it had been in weeks. "What happens now? Now we tear it all down. The FBI is preparing indictments for everyone involved. Politicians, businessmen, police officers. Anyone who took money from Catherine Wells is going to face justice. And Victoria and Linda and Catherine herself." Torres's expression hardened. "Life in federal prison, no parole, ever. They're never going to hurt anyone again." The door opened and a court officer appeared. "Court is reconvening in 5 minutes." They returned to the courtroom. The energy had shifted. Everyone could feel that something historic was about to happen. Judge Harrison took her seat and addressed the room. "After reviewing the evidence presented by the FBI, I am granting the prosecution's request to amend the charges. I am also recommending that this case be transferred to federal jurisdiction. However, before we proceed, I want to give the victims' families an opportunity to address the court." She looked directly at Marcus and Dorothy. "Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Thompson, you are the only surviving victims of this conspiracy. Would you like to make a statement?" Marcus looked at his mother. "Mama?" Dorothy stood slowly. Her legs were unsteady, but her voice was clear. "I would like to say something, Your Honor." "Please approach the podium." Dorothy walked to the front of the courtroom. She seemed small and fragile next to the massive judge's bench, but when she spoke, her voice filled the entire room. "I am 72 years old. I have lived through poverty, through loss, through discrimination, through more hardship than most people can imagine. I raised my son alone after my husband died. I worked 3 jobs at a time just to keep food on the table. I never asked for help. I never complained. I just kept going." She turned to face Victoria, Linda, and Catherine. "You thought I was weak. You thought I was just a useless old black woman who nobody would miss. You thought you could lock me in a basement and leave me to die and no one would care enough to ask questions." Her voice rose trembling with emotion. "But you were wrong. I am not weak. I am a survivor. I come from a long line of survivors. My mother survived the Jim Crow South. My grandmother survived slavery. You think 3 days in a basement was going to break me?" Victoria looked away. Linda stared at the floor. But Catherine met Dorothy's gaze without flinching. Dorothy pointed directly at her. "You are the worst of them all. You had every advantage. Education, money, power. You could have used those things to help people. Instead, you used them to hurt people, to kill people, to destroy families just like mine." Her voice broke, but she kept going. 17 people. 17 mothers and fathers and grandparents. 17 families who will never be whole again. And for what? Money, power. Was it worth it, Catherine? Looking at you now in that orange jumpsuit, was any of it worth it? Catherine said nothing, but something flickered in her eyes. Something that might have been regret. Dorothy turned back to the judge. "I don't want revenge, Your Honor. Revenge won't bring back the dead. It won't heal my nightmares. It won't give me back the 3 days I spent in that basement, wondering if my son would ever find me." She paused, composing herself. "What I want is justice. Real justice. Not just for me, but for all 17 victims. For all the families who never knew what really happened to their loved ones. For all the people these women would have hurt if they hadn't been stopped." She pointed at her son. "My boy came for me. He listened to his heart when everyone else told him to ignore it. He broke down that basement door and carried me to safety. He believed me when no one else would." Dorothy's voice cracked and tears spilled down her cheeks. "That's what family does. That's what love does. It doesn't give up. It doesn't look away. It doesn't abandon people just because they're old or sick or inconvenient." She looked directly at the jury. "These women have no family. They have no love. They have nothing but greed and cruelty and emptiness, and that more than any prison sentence is their punishment. They will spend the rest of their lives alone, knowing that everything they built was built on suffering. Every dollar they stole was stolen from grieving families. Every life they took was a life that mattered." Dorothy straightened her shoulders and lifted her chin. "I am Dorothy Thompson. I am a mother, a survivor, and a child of God, and I am still standing." The courtroom was silent. Then from somewhere in the gallery, someone began to clap. Another person joined, then another, then another. Within seconds, the entire courtroom was on its feet, applauding Dorothy Thompson. Judge Harrison didn't try to restore order. She let the applause continue for a full minute before raising her hand. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Your courage is an inspiration to us all." Dorothy returned to her seat, and Marcus wrapped his arm around her. "I'm proud of you, Mama. I'm proud of us." The trial concluded 3 weeks later. Victoria Chen was found guilty on all counts. 12 counts of first-degree murder, 17 counts of fraud, 1 count of attempted murder for what she did to Dorothy. She was sentenced to life in federal prison without the possibility of parole. When the verdict was read, Victoria screamed. She screamed that it wasn't fair that she was a victim too, that her sister had made her do it. The guards had to drag her from the courtroom. Linda Morrison received the same sentence. She had tried one last time to cut a deal offering to testify against Catherine in exchange for leniency. The judge denied her request. She went to prison in silence, her face blank, already disappearing into the emptiness that had always been inside her. Catherine Wells was different. She stood before the judge with perfect composure even as her sentence was read. Life in federal prison. No parole. Her assets seized. Her network dismantled. Everything she had built over 20 years gone in an instant. Before the guards led her away, she turned to look at Marcus and Dorothy one last time. "You won," she said quietly. "I hope it was worth it." Marcus stood and faced her. Every single moment. Catherine smiled that cold, empty smile one last time. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing through the door that led to her new life behind bars. It was over. 6 months after the trial, Marcus and Dorothy Thompson stood in front of a small wooden house in rural Georgia. The house was nothing like the Buckhead mansion. No marble floors, no crystal chandeliers, no basement. Just a simple home with a wraparound porch, a vegetable garden, and more peace than either of them had felt in years. Marcus had sold everything. The company, the mansion, the cars, the investments, all of it. He had donated half the money to organizations that helped elderly abuse victims. The other half he used to buy this house and set up a trust fund that would take care of his mother for the rest of her life. "Are you sure about this?" Dorothy asked, looking at the simple wooden structure. "You worked your whole life for what you had. And I almost lost you because of it. Money isn't worth anything if you don't have family to share it with." Dorothy smiled and squeezed her son's hand. "Your father would be so proud of you. I learned everything from you, Mama." They walked up the porch steps together. Marcus opened the door and helped his mother inside. That night, for the first time in months, Dorothy slept without nightmares. The next morning, Marcus woke to the smell of bacon and coffee. He found his mother in the kitchen humming an old gospel song while she cooked breakfast. "Mama, you're supposed to be resting. The doctor said I need to stay active. Cooking breakfast is active." Marcus laughed and poured himself a cup of coffee. "You're impossible. I learned from the best." They ate breakfast together on the porch, watching the sun rise over the Georgia hills. The air was clean and fresh, nothing like the polluted streets of Atlanta. "I've been thinking," Dorothy said, setting down her fork, About what I want to do with whatever time I have left." "Mama, don't talk like that." "Hush, I'm 72 years old. I've earned the right to talk about whatever I want." She took a sip of her coffee. "I want to help people, Marcus. Other elderly folks who might be in situations like mine. People who are being abused or neglected or forgotten by their families." "What did you have in mind?" "A foundation. Something that helps elderly people who can't help themselves. We could provide resources, legal assistance, safe places to stay. We could make sure what happened to me never happens to anyone else." Marcus felt a warmth spreading through his chest. "That's a beautiful idea, Mama. I already have a name for it, the Thompson Foundation for Elder Protection. What do you think?" "I think Dad would have loved it." Dorothy's eyes glistened with tears. "I think so too." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the world wake up around them. After a while, Dorothy reached over and took her son's hand. "Thank you, Marcus." "For what?" "For coming home, for believing me, for not giving up." Marcus squeezed her hand. "I will always come for you, Mama, no matter what, no matter where, no matter how long it takes." Dorothy smiled, the first real smile Marcus had seen since before the basement. "I know, baby. I've always known." 1 year later, the Thompson Foundation for Elder Protection opened its doors. It started small, just a hotline and a network of volunteers. But word spread quickly. Families reached out from across the country, desperate for help with situations just like Dorothy's. Marcus worked the phones. Dorothy counseled victims. Together they built something that mattered far more than any business deal or real estate empire. And every morning at exactly 7 o'clock, Dorothy called her son. Just to hear his voice. Just to remind him that she was still there, still fighting, still surviving. Because that's what Dorothy Thompson did. That's what she had always done. And that's what she would continue to do until her very last breath. Marcus Thompson had built a fortune and lost it. He had married a monster and survived. He had almost lost his mother and gotten her back. And in the end, he had learned the only lesson that truly mattered. Family is not about blood or obligation or duty. Family is about showing up when it counts. Family is about believing the people you love even when it's hard. Family is about breaking down doors. And Dorothy Thompson, the elderly black mother of a millionaire, had taught her son that lesson in the most powerful way possible. By surviving. By fighting. By never, ever giving up. The basement door was gone forever, but the love that had opened it would last for eternity.